Hey everyone, today we are making my childhood favorite food, pierogi. We start by adding 500 grams of flour and making a little well. And then we're going to add in 280 grams of hot water with 40 grams of melted butter. And you want to use a fork to get this going because the water has been microwaved for about 2 minutes with the butter in it, so it is steaming hot. As we continue to mix the flour in, you're going to see it's getting sticky. Now it's a good time to add our salt, and that is 7 grams of salt. And the dough is still pretty hot, so just be careful as we start to use our hands to incorporate and work the dough. I still like to use the fork a little bit to mix it. And then we go ahead and start using our hands. And this will take a little bit to get together, but not too long. And we want to make sure as we work this dough that it becomes nice and smooth. It'll be a little sticky at first, and don't worry. If it's too sticky, feel free to add some flour. And if you feel like the dough is too dry, make sure to add just a teaspoon of water at a time. But this looks like it's coming together pretty well. So I just keep working this, and you're going to work the dough for 5 to 7 minutes. And if you want to do this, you can do this in a stand mixer, and it'll take about 2 to 3 minutes, maybe up to 5 minutes to work the dough. This will be probably a total of 8 minutes working it by hand. And this is one of my favorite dishes as a kid. It's comfort food. It reminds me of the time I've spent with my mom in the kitchen. And it's just such great memories of my childhood, and I absolutely love it. And the fillings we're going to use today are called Ruski Pierogi, which are potato and cheese. And it's a farmer's cheese, so it's a little tangy. And then I'm making meat pierogi, and I mix beef, onion, and pork, and I grind that and cook it. And that's the second filling I use. And now that our dough is coming together, you see it's nice and smooth. We have to let it rest for 30 minutes. And after we let it rest, we're going to divide it into 4 sections. And we are going to use our pasta sheet maker. And you can roll this out by hand. You don't need a pasta sheet maker by any means. And the dough is still a little warm and tacky, so I make sure that I'm going to add enough flour so it smoothly goes through the machine and the pasta roller, and that doesn't get stuck because then it tears and it gets all wonky. And I flatten it out a little bit by hand, and I start off on 1. And you can go a couple times on setting 1 to get it smooth and to get it thin. As you can see here, it thinned out pretty nicely, and we go again on setting 1. And then we're going to work our way up through the settings. So then I go from 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7 usually, and then 7 I'll go to 8. You can see the dough got a little warm here, so it got a little wrinkled, but that's okay. You know, it's still good. And then I add some flour onto it so it doesn't stick, and I fold it over on itself so I can work the rest of the pieces of dough. And then we go ahead and add some more flour. Make sure it doesn't stick. There you go. You can see it's nice and thin. And we're going to feed it one more time through the pasta machine. We're going to set it nice and low. And we're going to do this for each section of dough. And as you saw, I divided it into 4 sections. And then from those 4 sections, I just cut it to make it smaller and easier to work with. And for me, it just made more sense. And again, we add some more flour. And then we're going to use just a regular water glass. It's a perfect size to make the rounds. And you just work the dough. You're cutting out little sections at a time. And for the spare dough, you're going to put it off on the side. You're going to work it back together later so you don't waste it. And you're going to use the machine or hand roller to roll it out thin again. And you do want this dough pretty thin. I did about 1/16 of an inch. You can go probably to 1/8 of an inch. That could work as well, but I prefer my dough to be thinner. And we just keep going, using up all of our dough that we rolled out. And you can see the dough is very, very thin. Again, if you're more comfortable working with thicker dough, that's okay. And then we're going to use a mini ice cream scoop. And we start off, that's our potato and cheese filling. You smoosh it in there just a little bit. There's a little too much, so I put it off on the side. And then we're going to use a fork to crimp the dough closed. Make sure you're not piercing the dough. That's something that happened a couple times while I was making these. And then I just went through and used my fingers if I did pierce the dough just to smooth it out and close it up. And this takes a while, so maybe get a seat and get comfortable, because it probably took me a total of 2 to 3 hours to make. It was about 100 pierogi. Here I went nice and quick just to get through and work the dough again and making another sheet. And we'll repeat this a few times. Like I said, we had 4 sections, and I cut the sections into smaller portions just to make it easier to work the dough. And there you go, nice and thin. And I don't know if you guys have a family favorite, but this by far was something I absolutely loved making. And I remember my aunt coming from Poland, and we'd sit in the kitchen at the island and roll out the dough and make these. And I remember a big pot of meat. I mean, we had to have probably had 5 pounds of meat. So we were making a lot of pierogi, and we'd put these in the freezer. They freeze great. So don't be afraid to make a lot. And once you're done working the pasta and closing up the pierogi, you can stick them straight into the freezer. I cooked about 20 or 30 of these today, and they turned out fantastic. And here we go. We cut out the rounds again. And remember, they're paper thin, so they will rip easily. Don't be afraid to, if they rip, put them back in with the rest of the dough that needs to be reworked, all the scraps. Not a big deal. Again, these don't have to be perfect, so don't be afraid if they're a little wonky or, not perfectly round. As long as you're able to seal them, that's the most important part. And here we go. We're probably on our second sheet of dough, and you'll see, same thing, nice and thin. And what you don't see in the video is my son came and helped me for a while, and he loved making these with me. It's just something I'm happy that I get to pass along to him, a little bit of family tradition. And these are going to be filled with our meat mixture. And like I said, this is half and half pork and beef, and then also sauteed onions. And once I cook the meat, I put that through a meat grinder along with the sauteed onions, which add a little bit of sweetness to. So make sure you add salt and pepper to offset some of the sweetness of the meat. And such a fluffy mixture, so you really don't need a lot. And same thing, we use our mini ice cream scoop. It's the perfect size for the dough rounds that we have. And we gently fold these over, and we push the meat in a little bit because you want to make sure you don't crimp it in the edges. Feel free to go around twice to make sure they're sealed properly so the water doesn't get in, because you do not want soggy pierogi. Those are not good. And you also don't want them opening up in the water, because then all of the filling comes out and you'll have dirty water, and the filling will get onto the outside of the pierogi that are cooking. And it just makes the water not taste very good. And one of the things here that I had a problem with was some of the excess flour. So they were having a hard time sealing. So I went back over them with my fingers a couple times just to make sure that the dough was sealed properly. And after that, we're about to finish our meat pierogi. And same thing, my son had a blast crimping these. He was off on the side doing his own little batch. And secretly, I went over and resealed them just to make sure with my fingers. I tried to hide it so he wouldn't see or be discouraged, because he was doing such a good job. These are just being finicky, like I said, with the flour getting stuck on the inside of the dough. But I can't tell you enough how happy this made my heart that I could pass along this tradition with him. And now we are all done. We have our batch of pierogi, and you are going to want to set a pot of water on boil. And then in the meantime, we are going to get some bacon out, and we are going to dice it. And this is just regular cut bacon, nothing special, nothing fancy. This is just what we used growing up, and this is what I still continue to use to this day. Just give it a nice thin dice, and we're going to have a pan heating up as well so we can saute our bacon. And then once we're done cutting the bacon, we are going to put it in the pan and get that going. And now we are going to cut a shallot, and you can do a yellow onion, a red onion, whatever makes you happy is totally okay. It just gives it a nice sweetness along with the saltiness of the bacon. It just really enhances the flavor of the pierogi. And same thing, it's how we used to make it back at home. We are dicing our shallot. We want to do horizontal cuts first and watch your hand, and then we'll do our vertical cuts. And then we go ahead and dice them. You can see it's nice and fine. And like I said, you can use red onions, yellow onions. You don't need to use onions at all. It can be whatever makes your heart happy. And now it's time to get our pierogi into the boiling water. We add some salt, and we go ahead and start putting them in. And these boil so fast. So expect somewhere between 2 and 4 minutes for the dough to be cooked. There you go. And they will start to float on top of the water. And in the meantime, we're finishing up our bacon. We add in our shallots. Allergy season has gotten the best of me this year, so excuse me. And we are letting that go. They cook up pretty quick, you can see. And we want that fat, so when we add in the pierogi, they'll get a nice little fry on them. And we transfer them straight from the water into the pan with the bacon and the onion. And we let that go for a few minutes. It depends on how crispy you want your pierogi. You can see them frying up beautifully. And then we go ahead, once we're ready, we go and plate them. And between my son and I, we polished off 8 of these, and they were absolutely fantastic. And he was so excited and loved how they tasted. We ended up cooking up a whole nother batch for him for dinner after this. And we are all plated and ready to go. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we do.